I will have this. I have the information on it. Yeah.
There's a guy, there's always a guy right here.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
You know what?
My cousin's son died. I had a friend from college died. You know how they came in the fire. I had a friend from high school who had taken off in a motorcycle accident. No, I said I might do some hours down on that.
I'm gonna throw something at you yesterday. I'm gonna throw something at you, but I figured this is someone else.
You just here to look pretty, right?
There
you go. Someone's got to do the muscle.
Yeah.
We very much appreciate it.
Yeah, sometimes it's, you know, mixed. I mean, we need any more troops less. Try to think of it. Talk a little bit. But that's the only one we have to do. I was going crazy last week.
It's crazy.
Hello. Where am I? Right over here, next to. Tell me 400,000. Good, are we?
When are you guys done with school?
Like the end of next week. So kids are there till Wednesday, like the 17th,
Are they
18th.
doing regents this
I know
year?
they've been doing
In some classes, but not in mine. So I'll get my own
You
finals
guys have been pretty reliable.
on the 18th.
That's it.
Fun fast. It's been a crazy year.
I know. I hope next year is more closer than what
Yeah.
would be normal.
Yeah.
Although I heard there's a teacher, the school buildings are so hot and some of the heat waves out west are just the buildings. She did remote anyway, just to not have to drag these kids into buildings that weren't.
It can work if the kids are involved. We did not. Some kids don't show up for it. It's not. They need to be right in front of the teacher. But it works. It works fine.
I was talking to Kurt at 7:30 this morning. They're all over. He actually asked me, I told him, just a discussion at this point, we don't have it. Make sure the others. How are you?
How are you?
Sounds like you really want to ask me. I mean, I do, because I look for stuff. That's it.
Welcome.
Zach, can you start?
We're good.
You're good? Okay. Welcome to the Monday, June 7th, City Council work session. Call the meeting to order. Would clerk please call the roll?
Sure. Councilmember Sheldon?
Here.
Brackman? Here. Karuba?
Here.
Olson?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Eglin?
Here.
Graham Reinhardt? And Councilmember Russell?
Here.
And President Dose.
Here. Thank you. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak tonight? If you would speak, state your name and address, and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Anybody here would like to speak to the council? Okay. Then we'll move on to our committee reports. We will start with finance. Councilwoman Eklund.
I think it's the first time we were shorter than public safety.
Yeah.
Public works, so I'll make it quick. We did have a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease renewal agreement with the Jamestown Renaissance Corporation of 301 East 2nd Street, Suite 301, Jamestown, New York, 14701, for office space at City Hall from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, subject to the approval as to form by the Corporation Council. You guys all should have the backup for that, and as Ryan stated, it's $500 a month from July to the end of the year, and that was included in the budget. We had some informational reporting. The first one I'll call on Ryan. It's the first quarter sales tax discussion, and it's some great news.
Yeah, we have really good news to share tonight. The first quarter sales tax payment was received in May in the amount of $1,648,000. It was an increase of $73,000 year over year. That's about 4.65% increase relative to 2020. So we're at about 24.55% of our budget collected, as opposed to in the prior year at the same time we're at 24.24%. So we're right in line from a budget perspective.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan? Okay. The second item for discussion, I didn't want to skip over it. We're going to discuss it. Everybody will receive an email with the history of it. Again, this is regarding the fire department software discussion. This was just a preliminary discussion with finance, and I'm grateful that Sheriff Quattrone and Captain Telford could be here to assist with Chief Kuhn and just going over some particulars of it. And I'll just, Matt, if you want to give a brief overview of, and if anybody has any questions for either the sheriff or captain before they leave, they could be here this week and not further. So now would be the time.
Certainly, guys. So what we're looking to do, as you're well aware, the fire department is still doing all of our reporting manually on paper. We've been searching now for about a year, close to a year, for a digital solution that's going to work for us. And what we've come up with, probably our most effective solution is going to be to use a product called New World, which is similar to what law enforcement uses for their records management system. This provides us with interoperability with the county 911 system, the CAD software the dispatchers use, and it'll also be a little bit interoperable with the law enforcement portion of it. So as far as our fire investigations go, our actual fire reporting and doing our electronic patient care reports, there's going to be an interface with that as well. It's going to be fully integrated. Basically our repository for the records would be at the sheriff's office. And the county already purchases the software, okay, from the law enforcement side of it. The package that we're considering, and I will certainly forward it to you guys in a digital format so you can take a look at it. I believe it's going to be the most workable solution for us. It's a legacy system. It's something that's going to certainly not be obsolete in a matter of years. Law enforcement has used this records management system for about 35 years, if that's safe to say. It's a very robust system. It's very well built out. All law enforcement agencies in Chautauqua County use this similar type of software. We're not going to be using law enforcement software. It is going to be a fire records management system that's designed just for fire departments. Okay. Sheriff Quattrone is here, as well as Captain Telford. They're here if you guys have any questions on how that is possibly going to look, or how the sheriff's office portion of this is going to work. They certainly can answer your questions for you. Or unless you guys have any questions for me.
What's going to stop, say, someone from the fire department looking at sensitive case information on the police side?
Excellent question. So, and I'm not trying to talk to the back of your head. Councilman Russell, right, so it's going to be a fire records management software. It's another portion of that New World suite of products that you're familiar with the law enforcement side. The fire department would not have access to anything that would be other than what would be fire-based. It's not even going to have connectivity to do that, other than if we were to attach like a caller's jacket to a call, because we dealt with the same person. But we wouldn't be able to look at anything in there. There's no interoperability as far as like the NCIC system or DMB, anything of that nature.
So they wouldn't be able to see any local cases if the police are working on a case, they wouldn't have access to be able to get in to see any
No,
kind of
sir.
local
No.
cases either?
No.
Okay.
Didn't you say something changed where we pretty much have to do this now?
There's some different requirements. So as far as our medical record keeping, our electronic charting, that has to be implemented by July 1st, yes. So there is a deadline there to do, that's a New York State Department of Health thing. This software will interface with what we're going to use for a solution for that. Our current software is actually called Firehouse. The support for that is going to go away beginning January 1st of 2023. The product has reached the end of its life cycle, the developer is no longer gonna support it. It's really not well built for today's needs or what we're actually trying to use it for. And there is, as part of this solution, there is gonna be a portability thing where they're gonna convert all of our records in, so we'll still have access to those. We have 17 years worth of records in that firehouse system, and we're gonna have to have access to those, because we still have to maintain those files.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else for anybody?
Is this going to assist in the billing that we've spoke about in the past?
Yes.
Anything you guys wanna add, or?
No, law enforcement has used it. Law enforcement has used it for 35 years. Every police agency in Chautauqua County except the New York State Police use it. Our 911 center, every call that comes in there, police, fire, EMS, all goes into the same system. For whatever reason over the years, the fire service never got on board. But from the police side, it works great that when a police report is written, it automatically draws in the information the dispatcher takes. And to Mr. Russell's question, everything is user profile based in the system, so we can create Jamestown Fire Department member users, and that will limit their access as to what they can see, what they can access, and we can limit that to just fire reports for the city of Jamestown.
As I just shared with Councilman Russell, I have a printed packet of the brochure, if you will, the actual developer sent us as part of what the demonstration of the product really is. I'm happy to send that to you guys digitally as well, along with the quotes in the packet.
I would attach that as well, and then attach it to finance as well.
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay. You two are
Thank you.
welcome to leave. I know you said you would stay as long as there was no questions, so go enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay if you'd like, but.
Cooler.
I'm gonna pass on that. I'll read the news today.
Thank you very much, guys.
See you guys, thanks.
We needed some muscle since the chief isn't here tonight.
That is it from finance.
Thank you. We'll move on to housing, and Councilwoman Corbin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. We had no resolutions to pass, but we did have discussion, first of all, about the zombie properties. And I think from last week, Wednesday, on June 2nd, we were on Catlin discussing the 19A program, which will allow the city to file lawsuits now against the lenders with a $500 a day fine for the lender to either take over the property, sell it, or bring it up to standards. We're also looking at, there are estimated to be 35 to 40 zombie properties in the city. In this new approach, the city's attempting to take title and control of the properties so that they can then partner with not only the Chautauqua County Land Bank, but Code, CRIC, and Chautauqua Opportunities, looking at there might be one partner who would be best able to rehabilitate that property and turn it into what's probably not rentable or usable into a homeowner occupied property. Along with that, you know, COI and CRIC both do homeowner education programs, and so they're looking to those programs to possibly turn people who are renting, who have been educated and understand what it takes to be a responsible homeowner, that they could then perhaps purchase some of these properties and be able to become a homeowner. And they'll be able to, you know, establish themselves in the neighborhoods, because I think a lot of the concerns and complaints are about non-owner occupied rental properties. So this might help them, you know, address that issue, and also help, you know, people become homeowners. We also discussed the housing court. Right now, it looks like maybe October, but more than likely, the housing court will probably not open until 2022. There will be a considerable backlog of cases. There probably will be a prioritization of the most egregious first, but given the length of time that housing court has not really been open, it's going to be seriously backlogged. I have again encouraged people, there is the Center for Resolution and Justice, which is housed in City Hall. And for some individuals, this may be a much faster way to resolve issues involving some housing. We're not talking about serious code violations, but neighbor-to-neighbor issues that can end up in housing court, or landlord-tenant issues that end up in housing court. So that's a possibility, and it's free, so encourage people to try mediation. And then our last topic was the guidelines concerning evictions. And right now, that's through August 31st of 2021. There are no evictions unless there are safety concerns. The state has not issued any more guidance about pushing that out, but they've moved it several times. They did recently announce, and it was opened last week through the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, there are emergency rental funds, including utilities and back rent. It's an online-only application. Chautauqua Opportunities will be administering the program, and it's going to be probably on a first-come, first-served basis, but the income guidelines are fairly generous, but it's an attempt to try to help people get caught up on rent if they've lost income during the COVID pandemic, to try to keep them housed. And it is difficult for those people who do not have computer access, because it all has to be done online, as many programs we're finding out are all online. COI has navigators that will help with the process, and I believe other agencies will help as well. The utility shutoffs, right now it's still December 31st of 2021. As I said, this OTDA fund will allow for utility reimbursements as well. But the individuals will have to work with landlords, and I'm sure any utilities, in order to be able to verify what's owed and to get the payments. So that was the gist of the report. I don't know if Crystal or Ben, you have anything else? Is Ben here?
Do you want to make a clarification?
I just want to clarify that the zombie law is the one where we find them, and the 19As
Okay, so-
are the ones where we take titles.
Excuse me, all right.
Not a problem, I just,
Thank you for clarifying that, Ben. I had a lot to take notes on trying to report it. But it is very helpful. I think, there are concerns from people about the blighted properties, and it only takes one. I know the neighbors came out on Catlin that were living across the street from the property that is hoping to be a 19A. And they've invested a lot of money in their homes, and what they see is an eyesore across from their homes. And a lot of people get tired of it. The grass, which the city, usually ends up taking care of, costs the city, and it gets added to the tax lien if they don't pay as a homeowner or the owner of the property. And it's just, it doesn't make for a good look. And I think people are really trying to take pride in their neighborhoods and do more. And they want to see the other people take care of their properties, regardless of who owns them.
Just a couple, those are three excellent topics. I know that they've been covered somewhat in media, but just to reiterate that, when you look at, people get very frustrated, as we get frustrated, the fact that the housing court is not in session, the eviction has been pushed out, it's a snowballing effect. Just to, make sure everybody knows, the housing inspectors are out there, they're doing their job, they are citing properties, but again, nothing's happening right away. It's going to take some time, and we just want to make sure that people understand that from the city standpoint, we're doing everything we can, and we just have to wait for these things to open up so that we can see some action. And I know it's frustrating. Well, it's frustrating for us. It's frustrating for the residents of the city that have to endure those houses on the street that are either zombie properties or they have code violations. And it's frustrating for landlords who can't get rid of tenants or tenants that are taking advantage of the law. So, thank you for that. And we'll move on to, anybody else have any questions? Now, we'll go to public safety, and Councilman Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one resolution, several special event applications, and some block parties for the summer here. The resolution is authorizing the Jamestown City Council to set the following policy for the employees of the City of Jamestown: telecommuting policy, subject to the approval as performed by the Corporation Council. It's a result of the pandemic where employees are working from home. Councilman Beckman had some concerns about that we needed to have a formal policy in that regards. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I've read it, trying to digest a couple things. Elliot, the policy itself, I'm assuming you mirrored from other,
Yes, it's mirrored from the Board of Public Utilities,
okay?
so it was, in essence, it's the same policy.
Okay.
A few minor changes on wording, but, gist of it is the same. Obviously, it's subject to change, based on council's comments.
Mhm.
First special event application actually was pulled. It was the Jackals 5K run, walk, and dribble that was set for this Saturday. It is postponed, it's not canceled. It will be held in the future. The next special event application is the Riverside Saturdays. Saturdays beginning June 26th until August 7th from 7 to 11, with movies to be shown beginning at 8:45 behind the National Comedy Center in Comedy Center Park. Last year they did have several movies out on their screens out front of the building. This year we're going to be doing it down the Riverwalk. This is going to be a good opportunity for people to get outside, enjoy the weather, and enjoy a classic comedy movie.
And just to add to that, Brent, they will be, for overflow purposes, using the screens out front as well, just so they can accommodate for distancing.
They can cut open the street down at that
Yep.
point. That's how we can have bigger crowds down in Riverside Park. Okay. The next is Los Contracantes Car Club and Bike Crew Show set for Saturday, September 18th. Starts early, 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. Local car club, they tried to do this last year and had to postpone it, of course, due to the pandemic. So.
I'm gonna ask a question about the time, about that time of the year, it gets a little darker. The normal car shows, they're end at 5 to give staff and stuff time to clean up. Just when you got a bunch of cars pulling out of that, it's dangerous in the
Sure.
midday. Like, I would maybe throw it back to them to end it a little earlier. Yeah.
I had mentioned, Councilman Russell also had some concerns over the noise that could, be coming out of the park with the residents that are there across Baker. So, I had mentioned that I would talk to Dan Stone. He's been in very close contact with the sponsor, as they've been working to figure out the number of parks employees that will be
Yeah.
needed in the park and the charges for that and so on. So I have a note to reach out to him about that, so I'll mention the,
For reference,
is
Jeff,
fine.
we never usually had one complaint during our car show for the World Series of Wheels, but it ended at 5.
Okay.
So, again, it's a little different, but I just have concerns of safety with that many cars pulling out at dark. Without, these are hot rod cars and everything, ours are usually generally more old cars, so classics, they're not usually revving engines and doing crazy things. And I do know that this car club also incorporates motorcycles and things like that, so, just a safety concern.
And they have been working closely with the Parks Manager, Dan Stone, too.
Yeah.
we can put some, put that in their approval letter as well. Once we communicate with Dan, and we've got some time to work with them on that as well, so.
Okay, the next item, excuse me, was the Forte Parklet permit. Technically, it's not a parklet because it's going to be on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant on 3rd Street. It's an encroachment, so they have submitted some drawings to us. There will be a 6-foot right-of-way for people to use the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, between the restaurant and the raised structure where they will be having outside dining. They do need to submit their application to the State Liquor Authority. They need to get approval of the Public Safety Committee before they did that. As Councilman Russell stated, maybe this is a better thing because there's only basically 3 parking spaces on that side of the street, and instead of using up those parking spaces, they're gonna be on the side. So, you approve that? Questions on that?
Is there a barrier between, I'm assuming, I know Four Below has that barrier there, they're on the road, but,
Yeah, it's gonna be raised, there's going to be like walls and a
okay,
canopy over the top of it.
okay.
Couple of drawings here. I don't know if everything else is probably not, because they were emailed, but they were awful hard to see. They were very
Okay.
faint.
Like I said, as long as there's some type of barrier between the road and their
Yeah.
parklet.
Yeah, actually, they were.
Frank, is it gonna be closer to the restaurant or closer to the street side? Cause I couldn't,
Both sides.
Closer to the street, I would say they're probably
Okay.
separated about 3 feet from the street, the edge of the curb. And then there would be 6 feet between the building and the edge of the structure.
So there's still enough, my concern is there enough room for people to move through there?
Right.
Someone
Well,
maybe in a wheelchair?
well, you already took me, that
Yeah,
was my
that's-
question. The
yeah.
concern is
Required to keep 5
what you
feet.
don't want people having to
Right.
go in and
Correct.
out around obstacles. It's just very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, Jeff just stated that the requirement is a 5 feet easement there. It's gonna be 6 feet.
Okay, well, I just wasn't clear
Anyway.
because when you were describing it, whether it was the street side or closer
Yeah.
to, but you still have to watch out for people bringing food back and
Sure.
forth. but-
Yeah, they have to watch out for the waiters and waitresses.
Okay.
And another opportunity for people to dine outside in Jamestown. Then we also approved a block party for the First Covenant Preschool on Saturday, June 19th. An early block party from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the students there at the preschool. I assume their families will be there as well. I believe they've done this inside in the past, but they want to move outside. It looks like we're gonna have some good weather for that, so that'll be nice. And the last block party we approved was for Fairfield Avenue. They've had this one a number of years. I'm not sure, I don't think they had it last year, but just, block parties are a good way for people to get outside, get together with their neighbors. It's been a long year, so I hope we see more applications for block parties coming in.
Brent, I don't wanna just interrupt, I think you may have accidentally skipped over the Juneteenth.
Yep.
Oh,
That was, thank you.
yes, number 9. Sorry. Yes, the Juneteenth celebration is Saturday, June 19th, from 7 a.m.
18th.
Or excuse
That's
me.
wrong.
No, it's the 19th.
Is it the
Saturday.
18th is
19th?
on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Right.
It's the 19th.
the 19th, yeah, it says 18th, but yes. 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. at the Jackson Taylor Park. This year it's going to be held in memory of our late Councilwoman Mickey James. This is a city-sponsored event, so no fee is required. It has not been required in the past. We do have a generous offer from Councilman Olson and his business accent. Business machines to pay the fee, but since it's a city-sponsored event, no fee is required.
I would keep it that way. We already sponsored one event that was held this last weekend.
And not on the agenda, but we did have some discussion on the illegal fireworks that people were shooting off for Memorial Day. Councilman Russell brought that up. Also illegal motorcycles on our streets and riding lawnmowers on the streets of Jamestown. Councilman Russell, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with Chief Jackson and also some of the officers, and I know they have been diligent about some of the illegal motorcycles, racing motorcycles. I talked to a road sergeant the other night. He had a couple motorcycles pulled over. Said that these two gentlemen were doing nearly 70 miles an hour on City Street. He did subsequently call for a record to have these motorcycles towed. I don't know what VTL he wrote them, but to me, that's reckless driving in the city of Jamestown when you're doing 70 miles an hour in a, 30-mile-an-hour zone. So I know they've been very diligent about the motorcycles. Also, I've spoken to Chief Jackson about some residents think that they can use their John Deere riding lawnmower as a mode of transportation. You cannot do that in the city of Jamestown on a public highway. It's not considered a motor vehicle. So I've asked the chief, I've had a gentleman coming by my house several times.
He comes around the block.
Yeah. And I've received emails. I received an email from a gentleman that was concerned about it. He said he nearly struck this one of these gentlemen at night, his personal vehicle, and is just concerned about the safety. So if you don't have a driver's license, or even if you do, you can't operate your John Deere riding mower on a city street to go large distances. If you're mowing your neighbor's lawn, that's one thing, but driving numerous blocks because that's your vehicle, you can't do that. The other issue that Mr. Sheldon brought up was the fireworks. I was gonna try to touch base with Elliot about maybe looking at the city code section again for fireworks along with Chief Jackson. Maybe we can look at the language of that and potentially increase fines. I don't know what the fine structure is now, but obviously it's not a deterrent. Prior to New York State bail reform, if there was a habitual problem, the police could engage in a custodial arrest, bring someone to jail for it, and make them post bail, which was a deterrent. That deterrent is now gone. An appearance ticket is issued, but doesn't seem to be doing much to help the problem. Like I said earlier, we have citizens here that struggle with PTSD, whether it be from military or personal trauma, and we receive phone calls and emails from these people that are traumatized by large rockets going off over their residences. Also, we have citizens that have animals, dogs, that are, get upset over these fireworks. And it's not asking a whole lot for people to be able to live in peace in their community and not having large-scale fireworks going off, over their house. So I'm going to work on this fireworks thing with Mr. Romano and the chief, and hopefully with an increase in fine structure, and if we can get judges on board with this, maybe we can quell the problem in the city.
Thank you. That's all we have for public safety.
Thank you. Very good. And we will move on to Public Works and Councilman Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had no resolutions to pass, just three things for information. First, we received a letter from a resident on Tower Street who has two children with autism and requests a sign. I think it would end up being two signs, one at one end of the street and another one at the other end of the street, so we talked about that. And Tower Street, if you know, it's brick and it's pretty slow moving anyways, but I think it would be a good idea to make people aware of that. But we didn't take any action on that. And then we received a letter from Mr. Rivera, who owns Patrick's Smoke Shop, 615 North Main. And he says when the roads were redone, no one took the time to put in the spaces for parking lines. And he said 5 vehicles have been hit there, including his own. And he also talked about somebody's mirror was taken off by a vehicle. We discussed this, but I'm not sure that putting in those lines will solve that problem. So we're still looking into that. I don't know, Jeff, if you have anything
We
else?
referred that to the traffic division for
Okay.
a report, and get that back to you at the next work session.
Yeah, and we also referred the signs for the autistic child to the traffic division too, so.
Just a question about that. Do we have guidelines as to how we determine what autistic child would require signs over what not? I mean, there's all levels of autism, I
Right.
guess I'm trying to,
Mm-hmm.
I don't wanna back ourselves in a corner of having everyone ask for one.
This would be the first one, I believe, right, Chuck,
I
in
don't
the
believe we
city?
have any other in
I-
the city.
I don't think
Mhm.
we have a deaf child even anywhere.
There's
Yeah,
a
I've
couple
seen 'em, but-
issues. In the past, we've had the doctor recommendation and then like an annual update because they could move, we wouldn't know
Right.
it, and we'll still have
Right.
autistic children signing up, 20 years from now.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way to really follow up on that. And I think that'll come back in Chris's report.
okay, just something that crossed my
Yeah.
mind.
And then we received a letter from Kurt Johnson, who would like to purchase sidewalk located on Second Street, the Second Street side of Shawbucks at 212 West Second Street. He'd like to add a 3-story deck to the Shawbucks building to provide outdoor seating for his restaurant and additional outdoor seating when the piazza area is being used to host downtown events, which sounds like a great idea. But again, we didn't take any action on that. I don't know, any questions on that? You could take a look at the letter if you'd like.
That's being reviewed by staff, to look at all the utility issues and
Mhm.
to see, make sure there's enough, right of way remaining after we give them the 16 feet. We should have something back to you at the next work session.
And not on the agenda, but we also talked about the reimbursement rate for sidewalk repair. What was it, 2004 was the last time, I think,
It
that
was
was
modified in
updated?
2004.
Mhm.
Just give you some history. What used to be the city paid 40% and the property owner paid 60% for sidewalks. 2004, we changed it to entice people to fix their sidewalks, and we gave them a $1 per square foot materials rebate. They paid for it. The city got out of the sidewalk business, which was great on our end, and it was more lucrative to the property owner. But again, like Tom said, that was 2004. Sidewalk block in 2004 was roughly $100. Sidewalk block this year is $300. Okay, they've gone up considerably in the past year. So as you can see, it's not quite the equitable 25% match that we were given before. So we discussed, potentially raising it to entice people to fix their sidewalk, which we know is a major issue in the city.
Yeah, I think it'd be the right thing to do to look at that. It's probably overdue, and we want to encourage people to take care of their sidewalks, and if that does that, great. We also talked about signage for, a little bit, about the signage for the school zones. I know we're looking into the cameras, and while I think that's a good idea, and as a teacher, I want to see people driving slow by schools, but I also think we need those, the blinking lights,
Beacons.
the beacons. I'm surprised that we don't have any in the city. That, I'm coming down Buffalo Street, I want to know, I want to see those things blinking, and if it's blinking and it's 25 and you're going to 35, 40, you should be ticketed, bottom line, I think. But you got to have that warning light, I think, too. I think if we have the cameras before we do the blinking lights, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. So, but again, that was just kind of in general discussion. I don't know, Grant or Regina you had a list of things.
Had a few
She's
things.
new to the committee and she's already
Yeah.
coming with a list.
A few things,
That's
I
good.
mean, primarily it was, dealing with, some of the trees
Mm-hmm.
and the sidewalk conditions based on the roots that are, popping up through the concrete. And then also I talked a little bit with Crystal about the adventure trail and, getting more information out to those residents, as far as what the,
Right, these are the
Project.
residents on 10th would like to have
yes, just a
some
little
input.
more information.
Mhm. Yeah. And that was it for Public Works. Is anything, Grant, we leave out?
Covered it.
I do have a picture if anybody wants to see of a rendering of the addition that Rochelle looks pretty good.
Okay, pass it on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other council business before we get to the mayor?
I just wanted to bring up Department of Works. I know we received an email a while ago about a stop sign. A resident was concerned about no stop sign, I believe, in the corner of Prospect and McKinley. I don't know if you all recall getting that email. It was probably roughly about a month ago.
Okay.
If maybe you could look back at that and discuss that later. I know the intersection that she's referring to, and I think it is a safety issue, and I'm surprised that there's not a stop sign there, because people can go right through that T intersection, and it can be a traffic hazard.
Like one street before two. When I lived there.
Yeah, that was also something we discussed.
Well, we did talk about the fact that not every intersection has a stop sign. And in my neighborhood, every day coming home, it comes to a T, and we just stop, because that's what I was taught in driver's ed when I was 16. So, and so to put stop signs up at every corner like that.
Typically, we don't put a stop sign on a T intersection.
Yeah.
In the city, but
So
we can look at that. I hear it.
I think, in this case, if it's a real safety issue, we should look into it.
When you were 16, did you just put a horse?
We had horses and bugs, yeah. We're the same age, Tony, don't forget it.
Aren't you older?
I think he's way older.
They're still plowing the snow with horses back then too. So.
A little bell then. Anything else? If not, well, the floor is yours.
Fantastic. I have just a couple items for comments from the mayor and a couple executive session items for council today. First and foremost, I just want to let the council know that this week I'll be at the NICOM conference for a day or two. So we do plan that should be a couple sessions on some of the federal funding and some discussion with mayors on how they're handling federal funding. If anyone's been paying attention, no city has really taken any action on the federal funding, because we still don't have final guidance from the Treasury Department. We have, and it's my favorite term, interim final guidance, which is not final guidance. It just has a whole list of questions that the Treasury Department still needs to answer. So I am encouraged that we are going to learn a bit more, and I'm excited to bring that information and meet with the Finance Committee and then ultimately the council on how we want to handle some of that economic stimulus. Okay? The other update I have is starting, I believe it will be at the beginning of July, the city will undergo its yearly sexual harassment and workplace violence training. Mr. Armando, it starts in July, right?
Yes.
Yes. We've also added a diversity, equity, and inclusion training module as part of that. So that'll be required for all employees through the city. Some departments that do have training budgets can elect to have an in-person diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Some are doing more. For example, the police department is doing some more training in that space. But we wanted to have at least a baseline training for all employees, and we rolled it in with their sexual harassment and workplace violence training. I want to also remind the council of a couple items coming up. Arbor Day tomorrow, June 8th, 1 p.m. at Allen Park, as well as this weekend. It is the Jamestown Pride Festival, as well as the start of the Jamestown Public Market. So we got a lot of stuff going on this weekend. And the last two items I have is actually just one item. I did receive an invite from the library. The library would like to invite the council on a Wednesday, preferably to take a look at all of the events that they have going on. Their Wednesdays apparently are very busy. And in a check-in meeting with the executive director, she wanted me to convey that she'd like to invite the city council to the library. I did recommend potentially having them host a work session there, but she does want to just try to invite folks that are able to make it on a Wednesday to see the events that are going on. So I'll coordinate through you, Mr. President, and try to find a time to invite folks that would like to join and see some of the events that are going on at the library. Other than that, I have some executive session items. I have 2 items for personnel. I have an item for collective bargaining and 1 potential litigation. That's it. Not a lot today. How about that?
Depends how long those are.
We should be able to get you out pretty quickly on these items today.
2 personnel, 1.
2 personnel, 1 collective bargaining, and 1 potential litigation.
And actually, we owe a big thank you to Parks Department employees who are out on a very warm Saturday morning, including Councilman Sheldon. I saw Jen Williams, city clerk, there. And I don't know who was at the Butterfly Garden, but it was a hot morning. We moved a lot of mulch. If you haven't been down there to Chattacoin Park, they've got some of the reclaimed trees from 3rd Street. They have set them up with an area that they have a carved chair and a footstool. And there are plans to install what might be a Flintstone car or possibly a bridge in the middle of the mulch. It's adorable. It really is. And I can't thank the Parks crew enough that they were there on a Saturday moving the mulch along with everybody else and helping out. And Dan was everywhere. He was between both places.
I believe
but
Brandon Fain did all the carving.
yes, and Brandon did, thank you, because I did get introduced to Brandon, but it was very nice to see. They were all smiling. Everybody was happy. They did, Kate Finch was there from the Audubon painting. Actually, Councilman Sheldon was the one actually using the spray paint to do the
Now we know
sidewalk.
when graffiti appears.
Yes, yes, I know. We asked who had the ID to get the spray paint in the first place, because you have to be over 18 to buy it. But it's very, very nice. They cleaned up a lot of the area, and to see people as dedicated as that on a Saturday when they could be doing all kinds of other things, it's a credit to the people who volunteer in this city, and I really want to extend that to all of the employees who did contribute. And I have to get over to see the Butterfly Garden. That was the other project at Love School. They did raised bed and Butterfly Garden at the same time we were moving mulch. So. It's a great city. People really come out when they're called, and so I have to thank them and the employees.
Anything else? If not, have a motion to go into executive session for 2 personnel items, 1 collective bargaining, and 1 potential litigation. So moved by Councilwoman Eklund, second by Councilwoman Karuba. All in favor?
Aye.
No action?
No action, and if we could please keep Chief Kuhn, as well as Mr. Thompson and Mr. Armando, and Mr. Haskell, yep. As well as the clerk.